Research tells us that in 2019, there was over 2.2 million minutes of content available on Netflix. That would take you over 4 years to watch. And so lately, I've been thinking, is it all a waste of time? Is Netflix good for you? What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are discussing a somewhat controversial topic: is Netflix good for you? If you aren't already, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Afzal_Hussein, and if you spend more than a minute on this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Personally, I love Netflix. I don't watch it as much as the next person, but I've seen and loved many shows including Prison Break, Money Heist, Breaking Bad, Stranger Things, and then real life documentary based series such as Tiger King, When They See Us, and most recently The Last Dance. The thing with Netflix is the shows are designed to keep you coming back by getting you emotionally invested in the characters and the plot, which makes it hard to stop. Each episode ends on a cliffhanger, which 9 times out of 10 means an all-nighter and a disrupted sleeping schedule. And this is totally fine. It might happen once or twice and that's okay, but when it continuously happens, that's where the problem arises. Anyone who knows me well knows that I have 2 questions before starting any Netflix series. The first question is, how many episodes is it? The second question is, how many seasons is it? If it's more than 6 episodes and it's more than 1 season, I have to politely decline from committing to watching it. Because after watching it, I get overwhelmed by an anxiety-inducing feeling of guilt and regret for spending so much time on something that, other than the instant gratification when watching it, brings no value to me going forward. However, I don't feel anywhere near as bad if I spend it in the company of my wife, my family, my friends, or doing any other social activity and watching Netflix at the same time. I prioritize these things because I see them as adding more value to my life compared to watching or binge watching a Netflix series on my own. Lately I've been thinking if Netflix is good for me. In doing so, I've considered a multitude of factors. These include value add, time spent, regret minimization, health, and acrasia. Acrasia, for those of you wondering, is basically a state of mind in which individuals act against their better judgment due to a weakness of will. Does Netflix add value to our lives? It depends. We can gain value from watching a great show, which then allows us to have conversations on the topic with friends and peers afterwards. It keeps us on the edge of our seats. It takes us through the emotions of highs and lows throughout watching it, and this is great. But then the issue of binging arises. Netflix definitely adds value to our lives, but I'm not sure if it's a fulfilling experience in its entirety. This brings us to the next point: time spent. To binge is to excessively indulge in any activity, and this is, for me, where it goes wrong. Excessive in anything is usually quite counterproductive and typically not the best form of time spent. Greed, for example, is one of the 7 deadly sins, and excessive use or excessive binging is an example of greed and gluttony, 2 of the deadly sins in fact. Too much of anything can have the opposite effect. It can take the fun out of the activity. And the thing with Netflix and the way that the shows are created is that they are primarily designed to be binged on. That's how Netflix makes its money. They're designed with excessive in mind. Each series is on average 20 hours, and when you compare that with the typical movie or the time it might take to read a book, that is usually a tenth or half at most of the time in order to watch a Netflix series. Regret minimization. One of the greatest feelings as a human being is when we spend any amount of time in an activity and at the end of it we gain a sense of fulfillment from partaking in that activity. Fulfillment is known to increase happiness. A lack of fulfillment can be the reason why so many of us hate our jobs. We hate going to our 9-to-5s, and it's primarily because we're not fulfilled when we are spending our time doing the given task or in that seat. As such, some of us seek a higher purpose, or we go on a journey in order to find that fulfillment, because that is truly what fills our bodies and fills our stomachs with joy and happiness. For me, after spending 20 hours on a Netflix series, I never really feel fulfilled afterwards. I feel regret for spending that time, all of that 20 hours on a show which hasn't really done much for me. It's a lot of time wasted if you're spending on average or below average shows. This of course isn't the case for top series such as Prison Break, Breaking Bad or Money Heist. If you're a fan of any of those series, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. It's important to be aware of the Pareto Principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. It states that around 80% of the outcomes or the output from any given activity or process comes from around 20% of the inputs. There'll only be a handful of truly good series that stand out compared to the rest that are available out there. The thing with Netflix is that not only is it bad for our eyes, but we watch it after work and before we sleep, so we typically watch Netflix in the evenings. This time is meant to be the sacred time when we spend doing non-techie activities, such as cooking, working out, relaxing, reading a book, anything other than staring at a screen. But because we've been at work all day, we decide to spend this time looking at our screens, looking on our phones, or watching Netflix. We're in front of screens all day, and so the break is recommended. Although we gain so much pleasure and joy from watching Netflix, in combination with the emotional highs and lows of each episode, staring at a screen for too long isn't doing our brains or our health any good. However, it's not all bad. I know I've been bashing Netflix for the last few minutes, but here are a few ways in which you can watch Netflix without having to worry too much about the negative effects it might have with your relationship between you and Netflix series. Tip number 1, divide the day. Oftentimes we watch Netflix at night or in the evenings. Why not watch it in the morning or on your commute or throughout the day? You don't need to spend the evenings watching Netflix, and that time can be used in a better way, such as just chilling out or reading a book or working out. So, divide the day. Prioritize Netflix for your commutes and any time that you have when you're having a break during the day, during the workday. Tip number 2, divide the week. Netflix doesn't need to be an everyday thing. Why not save it for the weekends? Instead of watching it every single day, oftentimes we gain more pleasure and enjoy things when we hold off of them for a while, and then we look towards them as a reward later on. And so if you save Netflix for the weekends and do maybe reading or anything else during the week, that can allow you to build a better relationship with your Netflix binging. Tip number 3, ration Netflix. Binge watch, but be choosy about what you binge watch. You don't need to watch every single series that comes out. Remember the 80-20 rule, the Pareto Principle. Focus on the 20% that are, top quality, and just watch those. Binge watch those if you want, but you don't need to binge watch every series that everyone is talking about or every series that comes out every single week. Let Netflix fuel your reading. So rather than watching a Netflix series, why not pick up the book that inspired that series, the book version of that Netflix series. It's a known fact that you can get lost in a book much better than you can in a movie, and I'm sure it's the same for books versus Netflix. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and if you aren't already, do follow me on Instagram at Afzal_Hussein, and I will see you in the next video.